Aloha. This is a fucked up episode, and it's really, really hard. This is going to be a hard one. There might be some tears. Um, how are you guys doing? I I just had the privilege of going to my friend's beautiful farm that is a beautiful 100-acre regenerative farm where she is amazing and bringing all these beautiful different people together to talk about the future and life and sovereignty. And so it was this beautiful sovereignty summit. Um, Ajare Wyckoff and the Yellow Barn Farm here in Boulder. And just so blessed and so grateful that there's people like her out there doing the work that she's doing. And so Angel and I, my puppy, we drove there. We got to go experience the event. And, I get these little callings like, you're supposed to leave now. And I'm like, wait, it's not over. I'm supposed to go. I'm supposed to sit here. I'm supposed to do the event and I'm supposed to wait because there's this person I'm supposed to meet. And then I get this like little, no, you're supposed to leave. And I did. And this happened to me at Burning Man right before I conceived my son, um, almost 17 years ago. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I did all this fucking planning and I'm supposed to be here. And then it's like this little spiritual voice that's like, nope, go, leave, da da. And I'm like, okay, fine. And so I left the event and I'm driving, and there's this place that it used to be called the bus stop, and it was a stripper joint. And um, it was just where all the people would go and hang out with strippers and all that energy. But then they ended up tearing the whole thing down, the bus stop, and they turned it into a homeless shelter. And but next to the homeless shelter is this beautiful place, and they have all these really cool, it's kind of like this 24/7 garage sale kind of thing, but it's all this gorgeous vintage stuff and beautiful artwork and all these cool things. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to stop here. So I stopped and I'm walking around, and I stopped because I noticed there was a group of maybe 7 to 9 people kind of congregating underneath literally the bus stop sign. And I thought to myself, this would be a cool interview. Maybe I could go take my camera and I can go talk to these people and talk about why they're, because you could tell that they were in transition. And so part of me was like, maybe I'll go stop. And I ended up just going into the place. I walked out and I was like, nope, these are not the people I'm supposed to speak with. Uh, and so I just kept driving and drive. A couple of minutes later, I'm turning down the road and I looked and I'm like, maybe these are the folks I'm supposed to talk to. And so I drove and I was like, no, 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 Val, just go home. You just relax. You're supposed to have a relaxing evening. You just had a really fucking hard day. You broke up with somebody who you thought you were going to be with. And then the other person who you thought you were going to be with before, you had a conversation with. So all this shit, like all this romantic, emotional, blah. And I was like, no, go take care of yourself. And then I was like, I don't know. All of a sudden the car is just like, no, you're going to go over here. So my car, I think it was God driving, um, drove me right in front of the homeless shelter at the bottom of the hill where I live. And I was like, And I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to talk to these folks. And it was, 3-ish, 3:30. And they're all like lined up and there's different segments of people. And you could see this like little camp of people over here and this camp of people here and these couple folks over here. And I parked my car and I put the leash on my puppy, Angel. And I was like, well, I guess I'm supposed to go talk to some folks. And of course, initially my enthusiasm was like, let's go record everything. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think these folks want to be recorded. They're in the most awful space of their life. And so I just got out of the car with Angel and we started walking over and I was like, hey, how's it going? And I started talking to these folks like, what's your name? Hey, my name's Val. Nice to meet you. And I just told them, I'm like, hey, I'm just trying to learn about what is it like to be a person who's standing in line to go into the homeless shelter for tonight. And there was, obviously a few folks, and two of them were just like, we just came here from Mississippi, and we were, we're hospice workers, and we're trying to help people. And as we're driving, because we thought Boulder in Colorado was going to be a better place for us, our things got stolen because the key fob energy died, blah, 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 whatever their experience was. But you could just tell, like, it was just like, we didn't plan on being here. They had a certain energy about them that was perhaps substance oriented. And so I could sort of tell, like, okay, they're probably really good people and they're trying to make their way to a different place, a better place out of Mississippi, whatever. And then I started talking to the other two people, and you could just tell, like, oh gosh, these folks are consumed by the demons. They were absolutely consumed by the addiction demons. They were consumed by meth and the fucked up shit that is hurting their soul, So that was the second set of humans that I spoke to. And then the third woman that I spoke to, love always wins, remember, was this young woman. Her name is Hannah. And she might have been 28, maybe 30, somewhere between there. Beautiful, beautiful young woman. And I just as I was looking at her, I was just like, how the fuck are you? I didn't say this to her, but I was like, how the fuck are you homeless? Why are you in line here with these other people who clearly are in trouble, And so it was just shocking to me to sit and have this conversation. So I talked with her for over an hour, and you could just tell, like, Hannah had been through hell. And her conversation with me, I was like, Hannah, you seem like somebody who's pretty coherent. You're intelligent. You're there. Like, what happened? And she's just like, the situation that I was in right before this was so bad. It's like being in a homeless shelter is better than where I was. And I was just like, oh, that's fucked up, because I've been in situations where I felt like, oh my gosh, I need to get out of where I'm at. Anyway, I'm really shook up right now, and I'm so sad because this poor woman, it's like she's sitting literally I'm sitting on the sidewalk with her, on the sidewalk with Angel and her and I, and we're just chatting, and she's just telling me, like, it's better for me to even just be in this homeless place than to be where I was, because I was being abused. And I couldn't get my head around it. I was like, how the hell is, like, and as I looked at her, I was looking into her eyes, and I'm looking into her soul, and I'm looking at this woman, and I'm like, that could be me. That could be my daughter. That could be my friend. And, like, at what point in our lives does something happen where we don't have anyone else that we can talk to, where we think the best solution is to go sit on a sidewalk on a Saturday afternoon at 3:30 and wait to get into a homeless shelter with people who are clearly much more disturbed and addicted and violent, and she talked to me about the violence. She talked to me about the what it's like to be a woman inside of these shelters, and what it's like to have these folks who have like these demons, these demons that are like grabbing. And I was just like, I like, part of me wanted to pick her up and grab her and stick her in my car and take her home and take care of her. And she was just like, she's like, I'm going to get there. I'm going to find my way home soon. And earlier today, I was talking with this man that I love and I just broke up with because I can't be with somebody who has alcohol in their life to that extent. But I love him and he's a wonderful human. But we were talking about what it's like to be a light worker and what is it like to be a being from these other realms, and who come to Earth, and we make these agreements and we say, I'm coming to Earth and I'm going to be, love, and I'm going to be DJ Val, and I'm going to be blah, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden you get here and you're like, what the fuck? This place is crazy. I think about, because my friend was telling me he likes to do mission work. And I was like, does that mean you're going to convert people to Christianity or something? And he's like, no. It means I'm going to a place, and he's a builder. He builds skyscrapers and bridges and all these beautiful things. He's like, I go to these places and I make them better, and I show up and I get to use my skills as a builder, and I get to paint the deck for the woman who's elderly, or I get to go do these, let's make a water well. But when you're privileged as a light worker, when you're privileged as a mission worker, you get to leave that fucked up situation and go home. You are the luckiest because you get to go in and you get to leave. And that's not your home. The place where you're doing this light work, this mission work, this healing isn't your home. And you have this wonderful place that you get to leave. So whether it's 4 walls like I have, whether it's another interdimensional place like the Pleiadians and stuff, you get to fucking leave and go back. And I think of Hannah, who I just met. She doesn't have anywhere. She doesn't have a home. She doesn't have anywhere to go back to. And it just fucking broke my heart because I was like, I'm the luckiest person because, like, she's sitting there on the side of the street and she has to go into that place where all these people are with all these demons and all this shit fucking flying around. And I get to go jump in that car, my little car, and I get to drive away. And I get to come back here into my little place with my microphone and my fucking camera. And I get to leave the pain that she is in. And then I think about all the pain that I'm in a lot as a human and as someone who's trying to make the world better. And I think about all the times I want to leave and go away and go back to the light world. And then I think of all the humans that are stuck here, like all of us and you listening. Like, we're so lucky. We're so fucking lucky. We get to leave, we get to go back. There's people who don't get to leave. There's people who are stuck. There's people who have no home. They don't have anywhere to go. And I'm just so fucking torn up about that. And sometimes I feel like that's me, but I realized after I met Hannah and I was talking with her, I was like, oh my God. And there's so much work to be done. I don't know. This is just a little share. Like, Hannah did not come into this world, neither did you, and neither did I, thinking she's going to be a homeless person or somebody who had to go to a mental health clinic or a rehab, or and if nobody shows up on earth and says, yay, that's me, I want to do that. Fuck that shit. But somehow there's things that happen in our lives that push us in that direction, and there's always healing and growth. But it's like when you're in it, it's so fucking scary. So I just feel like so blessed. That's like this hair thin, razor thin edge of like, that could be me. That could be me sitting on the goddamn street corner getting ready to go in because I didn't have enough family to support me at home when I was hurting and struggling and when I was weak. And so it just makes me so sad to think of the literally billions, not millions, but billions of us who don't have a home here on earth, and we want to get the fuck out. So I guess my hope with doing this little stupid little live stream is to, like, if you're listening, if you're hurting, you're not alone. And if you're like a light worker, like, keep doing the work because it's fucking hard. But you're not alone either as a light worker. And I hope Hannah's doing okay. Like I'm here in my little house, and Hannah is sitting in some stupid fucking cot with people who might rape her tonight. Why did she get dealt that hand and I got dealt mine? I don't know. But as I'm blubbering on, my friend and I were earlier talking about like a grace response. He got verbally attacked yesterday which sounds stupid, in the parking lot of Whole Foods. And he was parking his car, and it was right next to some Ferrari, like, and he was so excited. He was talking to me. It's like, oh my God, it's such a beautiful car. I'm so grateful. I get to like park next to this car. It's so fancy. And, he was like, I wish I could have a Ferrari one day. I'm like, yeah, Ferraris are nice. That's great. And then all of a sudden, I hear screaming. I hear, fuck you. What the fuck? Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And I'm just like, oh my God. And this is in my earbuds, and I'm like, what's going on? And I hear this woman screaming, fuck you. And then I hear this man's voice screaming, fuck you. And I was just like, are you yelling? And the person, the woman's voice is like, why are you barking here? And like screaming. And I was just, my initial response, because I thought it was his voice saying fuck you to the woman. And I hung up. I was like, I'm not getting involved in this shit. And I'm sensitive. I can't deal with fucking parking lot hell. And my trauma response was to flee. What do they say? Flight. It was my flight response. And I just was like, eh. And, and just from a protective state, I was like, fuck you. And I didn't give him the benefit of the doubt initially because my trauma was so deep of being attacked in the past. Uh, I ran away and I hung up, and I wouldn't pick up the phone for a little bit. And he was just like, "Are you okay? What happened?" And finally, I called him back, and he was just like, and because I told myself, I was like, Val, you're not giving this person who's a kind, beautiful, sweet soul the benefit of the doubt that that wasn't his voice screaming "fuck you." And I recognized I needed to do that. And so, of course, I was wrong. I was a total wrongo dongo. And it wasn't his voice saying "fuck you." It was this other man who owned the Ferrari who came out. Him and his girl were screaming at him because he didn't do anything. He just parked his fucking car. Um, and I was like, oh my God, that must have been so scary for you. But anyway, so we both went through a trauma response because he got yelled at and I got scared. And so we did this whole, I'm like, okay, you got to do some shaking. And I think of like Peter Levine and like the animals when they shake, like if a predator runs after them, and like if the antelope gets away from the lion or whatever it is, the predator, it kind of shakes it off and just is like, ah. And so physically that helps our body let go of those toxic adrenaline and the cortisol and all the chemicals that create stress, which are good if you are actually being chased by a giant predator. But if you can't get them out of your system after the perceived predator is gone, then it can really cause a lot of havoc on your immune system, on your nervous system, and whatnot. And so we did this little shaking exercise, and he's like, "This is stupid," and I'm like, "No, it's not. Do it with me." And he did it, and it was great, and it was just such a funny little uh, thing. And of course, it made him giggle, and he felt better, and la la la. But this morning I got to speak to him again, and he still had a little bit of the mental energy about how this person was such a dick, and he was driving, and then all of a sudden he saw another Ferrari. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm having PTSD." And I was like, "Look, whoever that man was that was yelling at you was most likely bullied when he was young, and he most likely had a grudge and um, something to prove, because at some point somebody made him feel small, and perhaps somebody with a big truck like yours made him feel small or less than or embarrassed, whatever it was. And I said, let's do a game. Let's do an experiment. Let's play. What if this man who, seemed to be out of control yesterday and like attacking you verbally, which is scary when you're in a parking lot because you don't know if the fucker's pulling a gun on you or whatever. Of course, you're going to be scared. But like, now that experience is over, I'm like, what if we played a game where we go back in time where this man was actually being completely annihilated and bullied by uh, somebody with a car like yours, and embarrassed in front of a girl that he was trying to impress or something. What would happen like to your heart if you saw that happen to a young boy like your son, a 16-year-old? And of course, I was like, oh my God, I would feel awful. I would want to hold that man. I would, the young man, I would love him. So I'm like, well, maybe we can reframe what that person just did to you from the lens of his trauma instead of from the lens of him being, and it completely shifted everything, because it's like, what if when those things happen, we can trigger this thing called a grace response and give this person grace just the way that we've been hoping that God and the people around us give us grace when we're fucked up and when we're in pain and when we're acting like assholes. Um, and so it completely shifted his energy, and it completely shifted his vibration, and he calmed down, and he was able to be very, very with God and with love, like what would love do? What would God do? What would Jesus do? What would Buddha do? Whatever. And so it was just such a nice way to heal a situation that could have just been this like, "Meh, that Ferrari guy, he thinks he's so cool and la la la," and, and instead turn it into like, oh wow, his inner child got hurt somewhere. I don't know. Today's been a really big day of grace and a big day of compassion. Like I keep thinking about Hannah, she's in a fucking shelter right now. It's a beautiful, beautiful girl. And I asked her, because one of my things that I love asking people that I meet as we're sitting there talking on the sidewalk, Veronica and I used to do this a lot with the Vibe Tribe. I asked Hannah, the girl, I was like, because you could just tell she's down. And of course, my mind is instantly in visionary beauty mode. And how can we look to the future? And I was like, Hannah, what would it look like if you thought about your future and this and that? She just looked at me like I'm a fucking psychopath. She's like, I don't think that way. I was never allowed to think about my future. I never had the space to think about me because I always had to take care of my parents who were addicts and abusers. So she's like, I was never given permission to think about my future and my love and my passion and my dream. And so she just looked at me almost like, fuck you. Like, don't ask me that question. And so I got put in my place today for sure. For sure. Not knowing the layers that need to get melted around a person's heart in order for them to dream again. And so this little rip, whatever, is dedicated to Hannah and all the people who are out there who never were able to dream and were never able to even think that dreaming is an option. So I'm going to dream for you. And I'm going to stay on this earth, even though it fucking hurts to stay here. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to do the work. Because I said I would. Just like the people who say, yeah, I'm going to go build a water well in Africa. Like, don't fucking quit. Build the well. And then you're lucky you get to leave. You don't have to live in the village. You're the builder and the missionary. So, anyway, I hope you guys are doing great. And I hope that grace and love enter your life on a moment by moment basis. And I literally, like I told you at the beginning, I know there's people tuning in right now. Like, I had no intention of, I'm going to go to the homeless shelter sidewalk and talk to people, but I did. And I let God drive the car, and I let God park the car right in front of these folks. Could have parked it anywhere. It happened to be right in front of her, right in front of these folks. And I got to have this beautiful conversation, and let God drive your car. Let grace drive your car. Let grace drive your life. Let grace drive your life. All right. I don't know. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. As I'm looking at I use Restream. And so there's like this little cool scroll thing of captions that I have for all the stuff that I put up. And I guess this is a good time to talk about Snap. And fuck, I had no intention of doing this, but now it's there and I'm doing it, so fuck it. Gosh, Hannah would have a good story. I bet. I'm doing a series kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul, and I want people to be able to express themselves and their pain and their glory and their transformation. And I'm putting together a series of stories, and it's called Snap Goes the Human. And it's about how we all fall apart and how we're all vulnerable. And that happened to me 8 years ago. And I used to be the strongest person that I knew until I wasn't. And so I want people to have a safe place to share their stories anonymously so that they can be actually super honest. Because a lot of times, if you're trying to share a story, especially publicly, you're going to like water it down or just not tell all the truth because you don't want to hurt people in your life and you want to protect other people in your life. And so, which is, of course, a noble thing to do. However, you don't get to actually tell the whole story. And so Snap Goes a Human is going to be a series of stories from me, you, Hannah, any of us that talk about our before, during, and after a breakdown of any kind, whether it's financial, whether it's a health crisis, whether it's mental health, whether it's relationship, the things that most of us might be so ashamed of and never want to tell anybody. But we need to just get it off our chest. So I want to create a safe place for people to get these stories off their chest. And if they wish to have an anonymous Bitcoin wallet, then we will send you a lightning split of any of the payments and tips and things that we get, because we want to learn about Bitcoin and we want to share stories of hope and grace and inspiration of how the fuck the great, beautiful human spirit gets through hell. So if you have a story that you think would be cool, feel free to contribute. If you have 1,000 stories, contribute them. There's no limit. My imagination tells me there's probably about at least 8 billion stories that need to get shared. So, yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone. Check it out, and I'll talk to you guys soon. In the meantime, give thanks for the breath that's about to enter your lungs right now. It's the only one you got.